Imagine a world where your thoughts shape the very reality around you, where each moment is infused with clarity, purpose, and a sense of deep inner peace. In Buddhism, the power of positive thinking is not just a fleeting concept. It is a way of life, a practice that transforms the mind and leads to true happiness. It is not about forcing oneself to be happy at all times or ignoring the struggles of life. It is about training the mind to see clearly, to move beyond attachment and aversion, and to cultivate a state of unwavering peace. The way we perceive the world determines the way we experience it. Two people can live through the exact same event, yet one will find joy and meaning in it, while the other will feel burdened and lost. The difference is not in the event itself, but in the mind's interpretation of it. Buddhism teaches that the mind is the key to unlocking happiness, and at the heart of this transformation is the understanding of karma and mental conditioning. Every thought we entertain is like a seed planted in the soil of our consciousness. If we water the seeds of negativity, fear, anger, resentment, those will grow and take root in our lives. But if we consciously nurture the seeds of gratitude, kindness, and wisdom, our inner world begins to flourish with positivity. This is not about ignoring pain or pretending that suffering does not exist. It is about understanding that we have the power to shape our response to life's events, to break free from habitual negative thinking, and to move toward a state of clarity and joy. The Buddha himself emphasized the importance of right thought, one of the key elements of the Noble Eightfold Path. Right thought means consciously directing our minds toward wisdom and compassion. It means replacing self-centered worries with a broader, more interconnected perspective. When we stop seeing the world as a place filled with threats and disappointments, and instead recognize the deep potential for growth, our entire experience of life changes. One of the most powerful ways to cultivate this transformation is through mindfulness. When we practice mindfulness, we become aware of our mental patterns. Instead of being trapped in cycles of worry or negativity, we learn to observe our thoughts as they arise, without clinging to them. We begin to recognize that just because a thought appears in the mind does not mean it is true, or that we must follow it. Meditation is another profound tool for reshaping the mind. In Buddhist practice, meditation is known as bhavana, which means mental cultivation. Loving-kindness meditation, or metta, is a particularly effective way to generate goodwill toward ourselves and others. This does not mean ignoring difficulties, but rather approaching life with a heart that is open, balanced, and resilient. There is a simple yet profound teaching in Buddhism. With our thoughts, we create the world. This means that if we train our minds to focus on patience, gratitude, and wisdom, we will begin to experience a life that reflects those qualities. While the external world may be unpredictable, our inner world remains within our control. The foundation of positive thinking in Buddhism is not about pretending that suffering does not exist. It is about seeing reality with clarity and choosing to respond skillfully. By cultivating awareness, practicing gratitude, and making a conscious effort to guide our thoughts toward peace and kindness, we reshape our experience of life itself. Mindfulness is the gateway to transformation. It is what allows us to recognize our habitual reactions and break free from them. Without mindfulness, we remain trapped in cycles of automatic thinking, reacting to situations without truly seeing them. But when we develop mindfulness, we create space. Space to pause, to breathe, to choose a different way of being. Much of our suffering comes from the mind's tendency to dwell in the past or obsess over the future. We replay old regrets, reinforce negative patterns, and worry about things that have not yet happened. This endless cycle of thought keeps us trapped in suffering, disconnected from the present moment. Mindfulness interrupts this cycle by bringing our attention back to the here and now. A simple yet powerful way to cultivate mindfulness is through breath awareness. By focusing on each inhale and exhale, we train the mind to stay present. Whenever negative thoughts arise, self-doubt, anger, fear, we can gently return our focus to the breath. This prevents these thoughts from taking control over us. Another powerful practice is learning to observe our thoughts without attachment. The Buddha compared the mind to the sky and thoughts to passing clouds. They come and go, but they are not who we are. Instead of saying, "I am anxious," we can shift our perspective and say, "Anxiety is arising." This small change reduces the power of negative emotions and helps us create space for peace. Mindfulness also allows us to develop a deep sense of gratitude. So often, we take the small joys of life for granted. A meal shared with a friend, the warmth of the sun on our skin, the simple act of breathing. But when we bring full awareness to these moments, we cultivate a natural sense of contentment. The more we practice seeing the good in our lives, the more the mind becomes attuned to positivity. One of the most transformative aspects of mindfulness is its ability to disrupt automatic negative thinking. When a challenge arises, instead of reacting impulsively, we pause. We take a breath. We observe our emotions. This pause gives us the freedom to respond with wisdom rather than fear. The Buddha taught that whatever we focus on grows stronger. If we constantly feed thoughts of anger, envy, or despair, they will flourish. But if we nurture thoughts of kindness, patience, and gratitude, they will become the dominant forces in our minds. Mindfulness allows us to make this shift consciously. By practicing mindfulness daily, whether through meditation, mindful walking, or simply paying attention to our thoughts, we lay the foundation for a peaceful, positive mindset. This is not about forcing ourselves to feel good all the time. It is about seeing life with clarity and making choices that lead to joy and freedom. But a truly positive mind is not just one that avoids negativity. It is a mind that radiates kindness and compassion. True positivity is not about personal happiness alone. It is about how we connect with the world. The Buddhist teachings on loving kindness and compassion show us that by caring for others, we also cultivate joy within ourselves. Compassion, or karuna, is the ability to see suffering and respond with wisdom rather than despair. It is not about carrying the burdens of others, but about recognizing suffering without being overwhelmed by it. True compassion arises from a deep understanding of interconnectedness. Loving kindness meditation is one of the most powerful ways to develop this mindset. By repeating phrases such as, "May I be happy," "May I be healthy," "May I be free from suffering," we train our hearts to cultivate goodwill. We then extend these wishes outward, to loved ones, to strangers, and even to those we struggle with. Over time, this practice rewires the mind to respond with kindness instead of judgment. Even modern neuroscience confirms that regular practice of loving kindness meditation increases positive emotions, reduces stress, and enhances overall well-being. Compassion also plays a crucial role in overcoming negative self-talk. Many of us are harsher on ourselves than we would ever be toward others. But Buddhism teaches that self-compassion is not self-indulgence. It is the foundation of a stable, positive mind. By practicing compassion, we free ourselves from the cycle of negativity. We stop seeing the world as a place of competition and start seeing it as a space of connection. Instead of feeling threatened by others' success, we learn to rejoice in it. Instead of reacting to negativity with anger, we meet it with understanding. This shift creates a life filled with genuine positivity, not forced optimism, but deep and lasting joy. A mind full of kindness is a mind at peace, and from this peace arises a resilience that cannot be shaken. Compassion is not just an emotion. It is a practice, a way of engaging with the world that transforms both the giver and the receiver. It is a force that dissolves barriers between ourselves and others, allowing us to experience a deep sense of connection. In Buddhism, compassion is not seen as a weakness, but as one of the highest forms of wisdom. It allows us to see suffering without turning away, to respond with care instead of indifference, and to cultivate a heart that is open rather than closed. Many people misunderstand compassion. They believe it means carrying the burdens of others, feeling their pain as if it were our own. But true compassion is not about being weighed down by the suffering of the world. It is about seeing suffering clearly and responding with wisdom. When we cultivate compassion, we do not become overwhelmed. We become empowered. We begin to understand that suffering is universal, that no one is exempt from pain, and that by bringing kindness into the world, we help lighten the burden not just for others, but for ourselves as well. One of the most profound Buddhist practices for cultivating compassion is loving kindness meditation, or metta bhavana. In this meditation, we start by sending goodwill to ourselves, silently repeating phrases like, "May I be happy," "May I be healthy," "May I be free from suffering." Then, we extend these wishes outward, to loved ones, to acquaintances, and even to those we struggle with. This simple yet powerful practice shifts our mindset, training our hearts to respond with kindness instead of resentment. Over time, it rewires the brain, making compassion our natural response. Modern science has confirmed what Buddhist practitioners have known for centuries. The regular practice of loving kindness meditation leads to increased positive emotions, reduced stress, and a stronger sense of well-being. It changes the way we see ourselves and others, helping us break free from cycles of judgment and comparison. But compassion is not just something we practice in meditation. It is something we bring into our daily lives. It is found in the small moments, in the way we listen to someone who is struggling, in the patience we show when others make mistakes, in the way we choose understanding over anger. Compassion is a habit, and like any habit, it must be cultivated through repeated action. Many of us struggle with self-compassion. We hold ourselves to impossibly high standards, criticizing our own mistakes in ways we would never do to a friend. Buddhism teaches that just as we wish happiness for others, we must also extend kindness to ourselves. Self-compassion is not indulgence. It is the foundation of a stable and positive mind. When we learn to forgive our own shortcomings, we create space for growth and healing. The Dalai Lama once said, "If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion." This highlights a fundamental truth. Happiness is not about selfish pleasure. It is about being connected to others. When we focus on bringing joy to others, we cultivate joy within ourselves. Compassion also transforms our relationships. When we see others as interconnected with us, envy and resentment fade away. Instead of feeling threatened by others' success, we celebrate it. Instead of reacting to negativity with anger, we meet it with understanding. This shift creates a life filled with genuine positivity, not forced optimism, but deep, lasting joy. But even with compassion, negative thoughts and emotions still arise. No one is immune to feelings of anger, sadness, or fear. Buddhism does not teach that we should suppress these emotions, but rather that we should transform them. The key is awareness. Most of our suffering does not come from external events, but from the way we interpret them. We believe our thoughts to be absolute, taking them at face value without questioning them. But thoughts are not facts. They are just passing mental events. When we begin to observe them without attaching to them, they lose their power over us. One of the most powerful Buddhist practices for transforming negativity is mindful observation. Instead of fighting against a negative emotion, we sit with it. We examine it. If anger arises, we ask, where do I feel this in my body? What thoughts are fueling it? Is it permanent? When we look deeply, we realize that emotions are not as solid or overwhelming as they seem. They rise and fall like waves in the ocean. Another technique is the practice of non-attachment. Much of our suffering comes from clinging to thoughts and emotions as if they were permanent. But the Buddha taught that everything is impermanent, including our mental states. Instead of saying, I am sad, we can shift our perspective and say, sadness is arising. This small shift creates distance and freedom, allowing us to experience emotions without being consumed by them. Compassion also plays a crucial role in transforming negative emotions. Often, anger and resentment stem from pain. Instead of reacting with more anger, we can bring self-compassion into the moment. We can remind ourselves that suffering is universal and that all beings experience pain. This shift softens our hearts and allows us to move from reaction to understanding. Gratitude is another powerful antidote. When the mind is stuck in negativity, we can consciously redirect it toward appreciation. A simple practice is to list 3 things we are grateful for each morning. Over time, this rewires the brain to focus on the positive rather than the negative. Another Buddhist method for transforming negativity is Tonglen meditation, a Tibetan practice of giving and taking. In this meditation, we visualize ourselves breathing in the suffering of others and breathing out relief, kindness, and peace. This practice not only reduces our own negativity, but also strengthens our connection with others. Negativity weakens when we stop feeding it. If we constantly dwell on resentment, replay past hurts, or engage in negative self-talk, we strengthen these patterns. But if we cultivate positive emotions through meditation, acts of kindness, and mindful awareness, negativity loses its grip. Transforming negative emotions is not about pretending they don't exist. It is about meeting them with awareness and wisdom. Through mindfulness, compassion, and conscious redirection, we develop a mind that is resilient, peaceful, and full of positivity. But in a world filled with competition and comparison, another powerful Buddhist practice helps us break free from jealousy and cultivate true joy. Mudita, or sympathetic joy. Instead of feeling envious when others succeed, we train ourselves to genuinely rejoice in their happiness. Comparison is one of the greatest sources of suffering. We see someone else achieve something we desire, and instead of feeling inspired, we feel inadequate. But Buddhism teaches that this mindset is based on illusion. Another person's success does not take anything away from us. Joy is not a limited resource. The Buddha described mudita as one of the four sublime states, alongside loving-kindness, compassion, and equanimity. Just as we practice compassion for those who suffer, we can train ourselves to feel genuine joy for those who thrive. This creates a cycle of positivity. The more we celebrate others' happiness, the more joy we experience ourselves. A simple but powerful way to develop mudita is through intentional gratitude for others' success. When jealousy arises, we can shift our focus by silently wishing the other person well. May they continue to experience joy and success. May their happiness inspire others. May I find my own unique path to fulfillment. Over time, this rewires our minds to respond with joy instead of envy. Mudita meditation is another powerful tool. We visualize a friend, family member, or even a stranger experiencing happiness, and we allow ourselves to feel their joy as if it were our own. This practice dissolves feelings of competition and creates a deep sense of interconnectedness. Happiness multiplies when it is shared. Have you ever noticed that celebrating a loved one's success brings you joy as well? This is because joy expands when we allow ourselves to experience it fully. By practicing mudita daily, through meditation, mindful reflection, and conscious celebration of others, we shift from scarcity to abundance, from resentment to joy, from competition to connection. At its core, mudita is about letting go of the illusion of separation. Instead of seeing life as a competition, we recognize that we are all part of the same human experience. Another person's success does not take away from our own. It is simply another expression of life's beauty. By embracing these practices, we cultivate a mind that is not just free from negativity, but overflowing with joy, connection, and peace. Impermanence is the truth that underlies all of existence, yet it is the very thing we struggle against the most. We long for stability, for things to remain as they are, for people to stay, for happiness to last forever. But nothing in this world is fixed. Everything is in a constant state of change. Buddhism teaches that resisting this truth is one of the greatest sources of human suffering. The more we cling, the more we suffer. The more we accept, the more we are free. At first, the idea of impermanence may seem unsettling. After all, we often seek comfort in the idea that certain things, relationships, achievements, youth, will remain unchanged. But Buddhism reveals that impermanence is not something to be feared, it is something to be embraced. When we stop resisting change, we stop struggling. When we flow with life rather than against it, we find peace. Nature provides the clearest example of impermanence. The seasons shift, the sun rises and sets, a river flows, never remaining the same from one moment to the next. No flower stays in bloom forever. No tree holds onto its leaves indefinitely. Everything in nature exists in a cycle of birth, growth, decay, and renewal. The same is true for our own lives. Yet we resist. We hold on to things long after they have served their purpose. We fear endings, forgetting that every ending is also a beginning. We struggle against the passage of time, clinging to youth, to the past, to the illusion of control. But just like trying to grasp water in our hands, the tighter we hold on, the faster it slips through our fingers. Buddhism teaches that impermanence is not a curse, It is what makes life precious. If everything were permanent, we would take it for granted. It is because moments are fleeting that they hold beauty. A sunset is breathtaking because it does not last forever. A song moves us because it eventually comes to an end. A deep conversation with a loved one is meaningful because time is limited. When we truly understand impermanence, we begin to cherish each moment. Instead of rushing through life, we pause. We appreciate the laughter of a friend, the warmth of the sun on our skin, the simple joy of a deep breath. We stop postponing happiness for some future moment and begin to live fully in the now. Impermanence also teaches us to let go of attachments. Many of our struggles come from trying to hold on to things that are bound to change. A job, a relationship, a particular version of ourselves. But when we release the need for permanence, we discover something incredible: freedom. A powerful practice for embracing impermanence is reflection. Each day, we remind ourselves everything is temporary, both joy and sorrow. Every experience is an opportunity to grow. Because life is fleeting, I will live fully today. By internalizing these truths, we cultivate a deep sense of peace. Instead of fearing endings, we learn to appreciate beginnings. Instead of resisting change, we learn to flow with it. Impermanence also helps us let go of grudges and regrets. If everything is constantly changing, why hold on to past pain? When we recognize that we, too, are always evolving, we stop defining ourselves by past mistakes. We allow room for growth, both for ourselves and for others. Yet, embracing impermanence does not mean we stop caring. It does not mean we become indifferent to loss or pretend that change is always easy. It simply means we no longer suffer unnecessarily. We recognize that clinging will not stop things from changing. We accept that all things arise and pass away. This acceptance is one of the most profound forms of liberation. It allows us to engage with life fully, knowing that nothing is truly ours to possess. It allows us to love deeply without the fear of losing. It allows us to enjoy life without the anxiety of holding on to it. But how do we integrate this wisdom into daily life? How do we move beyond simply understanding impermanence to actually living with it? The answer lies in practice. One of the most powerful ways to embrace impermanence is through mindfulness. By paying attention to the present moment, we begin to notice change in real time. We see how our emotions shift, how thoughts arise and pass, how even the most difficult moments are temporary. This practice allows us to remain steady in the face of uncertainty. When we experience loss, instead of sinking into despair, we remind ourselves that pain, too, is impermanent. When we feel overwhelmed by emotions, we recognize that they will not last forever. Another practice is gratitude. When we understand that nothing is guaranteed, we stop taking life for granted. We stop waiting for better days and start appreciating the beauty of today. We also cultivate non-attachment. This does not mean we stop loving or caring. It means we love without clinging. We give without expecting anything in return. We enjoy what we have without the fear of losing it. This is where the wisdom of letting it be becomes so powerful. The song does not say, hold on to it. It does not say, control it. It simply says, let it be. To let it be is to trust that we do not need to grasp at life, that we do not need to force things to remain the same, that we can live fully and freely without fear. This mindset does not just bring inner peace. It transforms the way we interact with others. When we stop clinging, our relationships improve. We stop trying to control people, stop placing expectations on them, stop fearing loss. Instead, we appreciate them as they are, in the time that we have together. Impermanence also teaches us to embrace change rather than resist it. When life takes an unexpected turn, instead of fighting it, we adapt. When doors close, we trust that new ones will open. When we are faced with challenges, we remind ourselves that they too will pass. Nothing in life is permanent. Not joy, not sorrow, not even our own identities. But rather than causing fear, this truth can set us free. It means that no matter what we are going through, there is always the possibility of renewal. It means that pain is never permanent. It means that every moment holds the potential for transformation. So, we must ask ourselves, where are we still resisting change? What are we holding on to that is no longer serving us? What would happen if we let go? The answers do not come from thinking. They come from experience, from stepping into life fully without hesitation, from choosing again and again to trust rather than cling. Because true peace is not found in holding on. It is found in surrendering to the flow of life, in embracing each moment as it comes, in letting go of the illusion of control. And as we continue to explore this path, we will uncover even deeper layers of this wisdom. We will see how this understanding of impermanence shapes not only our inner world, but the way we move through life, the way we love, the way we make choices, the way we truly live. Because letting go is not just about accepting the past. It is about how we show up in the present, how we walk into the future, how we learn to live with open hands and an open heart. The art of letting go is not just about accepting impermanence. It is about learning to live with a heart that is open, unburdened, and free. It is about shifting from a mindset of control to a mindset of trust. It is about recognizing that peace is not found in holding on, but in releasing. So much of our suffering comes from clinging to people, to identities, to ideas of how life should be. We hold on to relationships long after they have changed. We define ourselves by past versions of who we once were. We resist the natural flow of life, believing that if we just try hard enough, we can make things stay the same. But nothing stays the same. The world moves forward, with or without our permission. The more we fight this truth, the more we suffer. The more we embrace it, the more we are free. Letting go does not mean we stop caring. It does not mean we stop putting effort into what matters. It means we release our need for control. We love without trying to possess. We pursue goals without becoming attached to the outcome. We engage with life fully, but without grasping. Imagine a person holding onto a rope that is being pulled away from them. The tighter they grip, the more pain they feel. But the moment they release, they are free. This is what attachment does. It keeps us locked in a struggle against reality. But the moment we let go, we realize we were never meant to control everything. One of the deepest lessons in Buddhism is that freedom comes not from having everything go our way, but from surrendering to the way things are. When we stop demanding that life be different, we begin to see the beauty of what is. A powerful practice for cultivating this mindset is self-inquiry. Whenever we feel resistance, we ask, what am I holding on to? Is this attachment bringing me peace, or is it causing me suffering? What would happen if I let it go? Sometimes, what we hold on to most tightly is not even something outside of us. It is our own identity. We cling to labels, to roles, to stories about who we are supposed to be. But who we are is not fixed. We are always evolving. The more we let go of rigid ideas of the self, the more space we create for growth. Letting go is also about releasing expectations. We suffer not because life disappoints us, but because we expect it to follow a certain script. We expect people to act a certain way. We expect success to come on our timeline. We expect happiness to look a specific way. And when reality does not match our expectations, we feel frustrated, lost. But what if we let go of those expectations? What if we trusted that life is unfolding exactly as it is meant to? What if we saw every detour, every unexpected change, not as a failure, but as part of the journey? This shift in perspective changes everything. Instead of resisting life, we flow with it. Instead of fearing the unknown, we embrace it. Instead of seeing change as something to dread, we see it as an invitation to grow. But letting go is not always easy. The mind clings because it is afraid. It believes that if we release, we will lose something essential. But what we lose is not ourselves. It is only our illusions. We do not lose love when we let go. We gain a deeper, freer kind of love. We do not lose control. We gain the ability to trust. We do not lose ourselves. We gain the freedom to become who we are meant to be. One of the most powerful ways to practice letting go is through breath awareness. The breath itself is a reminder of impermanence. Every inhale is followed by an exhale. We do not try to hold on to the breath. We allow it to come and go naturally. When we align ourselves with this rhythm, we begin to understand that life, too, is meant to flow. Meditation is another essential tool. When we sit in stillness, we observe our thoughts as they arise and pass without attachment. We begin to see that thoughts are just thoughts, not truths, not commands, not something we must obey. They come and go, like clouds in the sky. Another practice is gratitude. When we stop clinging to what we have, we start appreciating it more fully. Instead of fearing loss, we cherish the present moment. We realize that everything is a gift, not a guarantee. Letting go also means forgiving, not just others, but ourselves. So often, we carry the weight of past mistakes, replaying them over and over in our minds. But holding on to guilt does not change the past. It only burdens the present. Forgiveness is not about erasing what happened. It is about releasing ourselves from the suffering we create by holding on to it. And here is where the wisdom of letting it be reveals its deepest lesson. The song does not say, "Force it to be." It does not say, "Make it happen." It simply says, "Let it be." To let it be is to trust that we do not have to control everything, that we do not need to resist life, that we can allow things to come and go, knowing that our peace does not depend on external circumstances. This is the essence of non-attachment. It is not about giving up. It is about giving in to the flow of life. It is about realizing that true power comes not from force, but from surrender. When we stop fighting, we find peace. When we stop clinging, we find freedom. When we stop trying to control every outcome, we discover a new kind of trust, one that allows us to move through life with ease. And so, we must ask ourselves, what are we still holding on to? What fears? What expectations? What stories about ourselves? What would happen if we let them go? The answers do not come from thinking. They come from practice, from loosening our grip, breath by breath, from choosing trust over fear again and again, from realizing that we were never meant to hold on to everything so tightly. Because true peace is not something we create. It is something that has always been here, waiting for us to stop resisting it. And as we continue to walk this path, we will explore how this understanding transforms not just our inner world, but our relationships, our choices, and the way we move through each day. Because letting go is not just a practice, it is a way of living. Every moment of resistance is an opportunity to practice. When something does not go as planned, instead of reacting with frustration, we can pause and ask, what if this is happening for a reason? What if this is not a mistake, but an invitation? What if the detour is actually the path? When we trust life, we stop seeing obstacles as punishments and start seeing them as lessons. We stop believing that we must fight against the current and start learning how to flow with it. We begin to understand that sometimes what we want is not what we need. And sometimes the things that do not work out are making space for something even greater. But trust is not just about accepting what happens to us. It is also about how we engage with the world. It is about how we love, how we give, how we act. Because if we are truly practicing letting go, it must extend beyond our own minds. It must shape the way we connect with others. This is where non-attachment in relationships becomes essential. Because so much of our suffering comes not from love itself, but from the way we try to hold on to it. We mistake attachment for love. We believe that to love someone is to possess them, to control them, to make them stay. But real love does not cling. Real love does not demand. Real love does not say, "You belong to me." It says, "I am grateful for you, no matter how long you are here." Attachment is rooted in fear. Fear of losing, fear of change, fear of uncertainty. But love that is based in fear is not love. It is possession. And possession always leads to suffering. Because nothing in life is permanent. People change. Relationships evolve. Some last a lifetime, and some are meant to be temporary. If we try to make something last forever, we miss the beauty of what it is in the present. We become so focused on keeping it, on securing it, on making sure it does not change, that we forget to actually experience it. But when we let go of attachment, we allow love to be what it is, a gift, not a guarantee. This does not mean we stop caring. It does not mean we become indifferent. It means we learn to love fully, without fear. We learn to cherish every moment, knowing that nothing is owed to us. We learn to appreciate people as they are, without trying to mold them into who we want them to be. And when we love this way, we experience a freedom that is beyond words. Because suddenly, love is no longer something we must control. It is something we simply experience. It is something that flows naturally, without force, without fear, without demand. Imagine holding a butterfly in your hands. If you grip it too tightly, you will crush it. But if you open your hands, if you let it rest freely, it may choose to stay. Love works the same way. The tighter we hold on, the more we suffocate it. The more we let go, the more it can breathe, the more it can flourish, the more it can be real. But letting go in relationships is not just about love. It is also about forgiveness. Because one of the heaviest burdens we carry is resentment. The unwillingness to forgive keeps us chained to the past. It keeps us reliving the same pain over and over again, long after the moment is past. Forgiveness does not mean we condone harm. It does not mean we forget. It means we choose to release ourselves from the suffering of holding on to anger. It means we decide that our peace is more important than our pride. It means we understand that carrying resentment only poisons us, not the person who hurt us. And here, Once again, the wisdom of letting it be speaks to us. It does not say, hold on to it. It does not say, keep reliving the pain. It simply says, let it be. To forgive is to free ourselves. It is to choose peace over bitterness, healing over suffering, trust over fear. It is to understand that the past cannot be changed, but the future is still unwritten, and we get to choose how we carry it forward. This is where the practice of letting go becomes not just personal, but universal. Because the way we let go affects not just ourselves, but the world around us. When we stop clinging, we move through life with greater ease. We become more compassionate, more open, more kind. We stop needing to prove ourselves, to control others, to demand that life unfold a certain way. We simply experience it. And when we live this way, we find that life is far more beautiful than we ever imagined. Because suddenly, we are not burdened by fear. We are not weighed down by expectations. We are not lost in the past or obsessed with the future. We are here, now fully present, fully alive. And so, we must ask ourselves, what are we still holding on to? What is keeping us from fully experiencing life as it is? What would happen if we truly let go? The answers do not come from thinking. They come from being. They come from surrender. They come from trust. And as we continue this journey, we will explore what it truly means to live in this state of freedom. Not just for a moment, but as a way of being. Not just in times of ease, but in times of difficulty. Not just in theory, but in practice. Because letting go is not an idea, it is a way of life. True freedom is not found in external circumstances. It is not something we achieve when life finally goes our way, when people behave as we expect, or when everything falls into place. True freedom is something we cultivate within, independent of what is happening around us. It is the ability to remain at peace, not because life is perfect, but because we are no longer bound by the illusion of control. It is the ability to move through life with open hands, allowing things to come and go without resistance, without fear, without grasping. But to live in this state of freedom requires something deeper than intellectual understanding. It requires practice. It requires the willingness to let go again and again until it becomes second nature. It requires the discipline to return, moment by moment, to a state of presence, to a state of surrender, to a state of trust. This is not an easy path. The world teaches us to hold on, to fight, to strive. We are conditioned to believe that happiness comes from external achievement, that we must control our circumstances in order to feel secure, that letting go is the same as giving up. But Buddhism teaches the opposite. It teaches that clinging is what creates suffering, that the tighter we hold on, the more we struggle, that the more we try to force life to bend to our will, the more resistance we create. Letting go does not mean we stop caring. It does not mean we stop setting goals, stop pursuing dreams, or stop loving deeply. It means we do all of these things with a spirit of openness rather than attachment. We work toward our goals, but we are not attached to the outcome. We love fully, but we do not try to possess. We embrace life, but we do not fear change. This shift in mindset is radical. It goes against everything we have been taught. But once we begin to practice it, we realize how much lighter we feel. We realize how much energy we have wasted trying to control the uncontrollable. We realize that when we stop resisting life, life flows in a way that is far more harmonious than anything we could have orchestrated. But But what does this look like in daily life? How do we apply this wisdom in the moments that challenge us most? Consider the way we react to disappointment. When something does not go as planned, our first instinct is often frustration. We feel wronged by life. We believe that things should have happened differently. We resist reality. But what if, instead of resisting, we simply accept it? What if, instead of reacting with anger, we responded with trust? What if we believed, even for a moment, that everything was unfolding exactly as it was meant to? This does not mean we stop taking action. It does not mean we do not work to improve our circumstances, but it means we stop fighting against reality. We stop believing that peace is only possible when life looks the way we want it to. We find peace in the present, exactly as it is. Now consider the way we approach change. When life shifts in ways we did not expect, when relationships evolve, when chapters close, we often resist. We long for what was. We struggle against the inevitable. But what if we saw change not as something to fear, but as something to embrace? What if, instead of grieving what is lost, we opened ourselves to what is next? When we resist change, we suffer. When we embrace it, we grow. The difference is in our perspective. The seasons change, the tides shift. The universe is constantly evolving, and we are part of that movement. To resist change is to resist life itself. But to embrace it is to step into the natural flow of existence. And then there is the matter of attachment to identity. We all have an image of who we believe we are, a story we tell ourselves about what defines us. But this story is often built on illusion. We cling to our past selves, to our titles, to our successes and failures, believing they make us who we are. But who we are is something far deeper than any label or achievement.